to the final cabinet of this council term, and I think it is the last formal meeting of this council. I'll say a few words at the end of the meeting. I think the best thing is for us to focus on the business of the meeting first. So a warm welcome to you all to the cabinet meeting held on the 12th of April. We'll start. Are there any apologies?
Is it? Apology from Richard? Yes. Yeah. Apology from Richard. Any other apologies? No. Okay. Agenda item 2, declaration of interest.
Members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the meeting for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal or personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available either from the staff here today or online.
Gary, is there anybody who wants to declare an interest? Mark?
Thank you, Leader. Just Denby High School's mentioned in the documents today, and I'm Vice Chair and School Governor. Talking about.
Yeah, Mark. Anybody else? No. Okay, thank you. 3, urgent matters. No urgent matters. Yeah. Minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of March. First of all, for accuracy, page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For matters arising, page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, will somebody confirm that the minutes are correct, please? Mark, somebody else, and Julian. Okay, thank you. That's been passed. Thank you. Right, we'll go on to the Brian Jones show now. There's quite a few agenda items in your name, Brian. Agenda item 5, waste service remodelling, update on financial position, including updated business case.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, this report this morning is an update to Cabinet on the current financials on the new waste model. Nothing new as such. We've been very transparent all the way through this project. It's been through the council processes, been to scrutiny a number of times, always comes out with a virtual clean bill of health, and not unlike other services in the council, be it education, be it transport, be it all. So am I coming through okay? Am I? Some people are shaking their heads. Yeah. Yeah, so there's been cost pressures right across the service and all the portfolios of the cabinet members. So no surprise as such then in the current climate that the new waste model is suffering the same issues of price increases, etc., etc. So there is a detailed report pack that's been circulated. Hopefully you've all been through it in the finite detail. And Tony Ward's with us this morning, and we've got Julian Thompson-Hill for support on the finance side of things, along with Steve Gadd, 151 section officer. So we will be able to answer any questions you might put to us, Cabinet, and the members that are with us this morning. But in a nutshell, nothing too out of the box here. Costs have increased, I've already said, in all sorts of areas, not just in Denbighshire, globally. And so it's not a big deal as such that we're asking for recommendations here this morning. So with those few words, I'll pass over to Mr. Ward to expand slightly.
Thank you, Brian. Borodar Power, morning, everybody. Much time has passed since Cabinet agreed to change the household waste collection model in Denbighshire, so the project board felt that it was right to bring an updated business case to Cabinet today. Just as a reminder for everybody, the new waste model will mean the residents receive a weekly service for dry recycling instead of the fortnightly service that people receive today. And this is important because residents told us that the biggest issue with the current model was that they didn't have enough capacity for recycling. Collections for residual waste will be every 4 weeks, as has now become the norm across Wales. This is made possible because there's actually very little that can't be recycled via our curbside recycling collections. So the essence of the business case remains the same today as it did when the decision was made to support the original business case. This means that the new waste collection model will result in increased recycling performance, higher quality recycling being collected that will be suitable for reuse in the UK manufacturing industry, reduced carbon emissions, and the waste collection service costing significantly less than it would if we retain the existing model. However, in addition to these benefits, we have already delivered a significant amount of economic benefit for Denbighshire by enabling 4 important and well-established local businesses to expand on the COLOMENDY estate in Denby. When the original business case was approved by Cabinet, this element of the project was just something that we hoped to do. We didn't own the land on the COLOMENDY estate, and we only proposed to work with the consortium of businesses to buy the plot of land at that stage. It then actually took 15 months to complete the purchase of that land, which was complicated by the fact that the land was not registered, and we therefore had to wait for the land registry to complete that process before we could purchase the land. However, it was worth waiting for that to happen because this project has now unlocked the potential of this land, which has been earmarked as employment land in the LDP for many years. The 4 local businesses now have a secure future in Denby, and some have already expanded into that additional space. Many existing jobs in the county have been safeguarded, and new jobs for local people have been created. Although this has nothing to do with the waste collection model, it's a significant additional benefit from the waste collection project, and it has been a huge success in that regard. Going back to the waste collection model, the main thing that has changed since the original business case was agreed is the cost of everything. Members will be aware that global factors such as COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine have had and continue to have a significant impact on inflation. Key materials have seen significant cost increases. For example, structural steel increased by around 90% during 2021, and this has continued into 2022. Price inflation for materials since this project began are unprecedented and could not have been predicted. Fleet costs have also increased by almost 25% in the last 12 months. Vehicle prices continue to increase, and there are also significant supply issues. Again, these issues are unprecedented and could not have reasonably been predicted when the original business case was approved. So due to these issues, a bid was submitted to Welsh Government for additional funding of around £1.6 million for the project, and that funding was approved in March 2022. What we therefore bring to Cabinet today is an updated business case to reflect the latest costs, budget and revenue position for the project. The biggest risk with the project remains continued cost inflation, as Brian said, and until tenders have been returned and contracts awarded, that risk will remain. However, Welsh Government have recognised that and have recently provided all 22 local authorities with additional unhypothecated capital grant for that very reason.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure that Julian or Steve would be happy to elaborate on that if necessary. So in summary, this project is very clearly still the right thing to do. The benefits remain the same in terms of increased recycling performance, higher quality recycling, reduced carbon emissions, and the waste service costing significantly less than it would if we retain the existing model. In addition, as I said, the project has already protected many local jobs and will lead to the creation of additional employment and economic growth. I therefore ask Cabinet to support the recommendations in the paper and approve the updated business case. And I'm here to answer any questions that members might have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for that. Is that it's from officers and the support on the reports, is it? We'll move on to
Yes,
members now.
That's fine. Thank you, Leader. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Julian, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Leader. Not too much I need to add to what Brian and Tony have said. I just wanted to add my piece, obviously, from the finance perspective. As has been outlined, this is not a unique circumstance. We've had it in the increase in costs has been factored in now to a number of schemes that we're working through the system. This obviously is one of the largest. So obviously the impact has been quite significant on this project. You know, again, it's not unique to us. It's right across the sector in terms of construction projects, and we are fortunate that Welsh Government have agreed to put the additional funding into this scheme. They are committed to seeing that this works, which is excellent news. So it's just really to confirm that as things stand at the moment, obviously nobody knows what's going to happen between now and the letting of the contract, as Tony says. But that we have got a fully funded project in front of us, which is good, which will allow us to let all of the necessary contracts in the coming weeks and months, and actually start to get the work on site and completed. It is right and appropriate that as things have moved on, that the business case is brought back to Cabinet, which is part of the documentation in your packs. And I am also I've also served as a member of the project board. So we've had a handle on this for some time through the process, and I also am recommending you know that we accept the business case and carry on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Julian, for that. Brian, I remember you saying a figure how many times the project board have met on this. It's quite a substantial amount of times you've been meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, that was remiss. It slipped my mind. The Waste Project Board, which hopefully you're all aware of, has run from the beginning, and we're up to board meeting number 48. So it's really been a focused project with all elements of the council coming together, from finance, project teams, all sorts of support, building control, etc., etc. So it's all there in the council domain. It's all been recorded. It's published. You've all had the opportunity to read and digest. So from that point of view, it's been a real on the ball, well-run project to this point. One point that hasn't been mentioned, talking about points, and this will apply to the next couple of items as well when we get onto them. The gate fee, UPM, where all the blue bin waste goes to, Dempshire have a contract with that company that runs to the autumn of next year when it ceases, and UPM as a company are actually pulling out of the market of taking blue bin recycled waste. They won't be there any longer. And so the essence of these reports, to get things moving quicker, we need to make sure that we roll this new waste model out before the autumn of 2023, because the gate fee, which most of you probably will have forgotten, when we started on this project, we used to receive somewhere in the region of £28 per tonne for our blue bin recycled waste from UPM in Shotton. Today, that gate fee has swung totally in the opposite direction, and it's up to £80 odd a tonne, and it looks like it's going to go to £100 a tonne very shortly. So that's adding financial pressure to the current waste model. If we don't roll this new waste model out before that contract expires with the UPM, we have then got a big problem of where do we send the blue bin waste to. And the options on the table at the moment are over to Ireland. There's a couple of possibilities in the southeast of England, and you don't need to be that rocket scientist to work out that the financial implication of that will be pretty huge if, for example, it was a 6-month delay from the autumn of next year. So that's another point to consider when we're looking at these recommendations today. Thank you, Leader.
And okay, Julian, did you want to come back? No, you didn't want to come back. That's fine. Any comments from cabinet members on the report? No. Okay, I'll open it up to questions. Paul, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? This is obviously highly unpopular. Can you hear me?
You might have to switch the screen off, Paul.
Okay.
It wasn't very clear.
Can you hear me now? Let's say this is massively unpopular with the public of Denbighshire, the charges at the tip particularly. Several people, myself included, have criticised this plan, saying it is going to increase fly tipping massively. The English government have just agreed with me and they've announced they're going to stop these charges because fly tipping is on the increase. Has any kind of work been done to assess that?
Yeah, I'll tune it. I'll take it first of all. First of all, this the new waste recycling, which has got nothing to do with this paper, young Paul, nothing to do with it whatsoever. But and I appreciate the efforts you've made to publicise it with residents. We'll have a brief moment on the new waste recycling charges. When I speak to people, when you explain to them that they're not going to be paying anything extra whatsoever to take anything they were taking 6 weeks ago to a recycling centre, they understand what is being offered to them is a good deal. And I use rubber tyres as an example, and asbestos. You couldn't take these to one of our recycling centres. Now you can, and we're offering to take that at a reduced cost to the private sector. So it's an add-on benefit service. It's not a hindrance. It's not a penalty to residents. They can take whatever they were taking 12 months ago free of charge. This is an add-on service. It's a good thing. It's a better thing. And it's not a bad thing. But we're moving away from this paper. And then as far as fly tipping goes, yeah, there's an issue with fly tipping. Fly tipping is an issue across the UK. So it's not solely Denbighshire with fly tipping. But what we've got in Denbighshire, we have got a robust enforcement policy for fly tipping. And when people are found out causing fly tipping, they get the appropriate punishment. And we do that as an authority, we follow it through. And so we do our best. But fly tipping is an issue all over the UK, but we'll continue to do what we can in Denbighshire to curb it. And more effort needs to go in, whether it's gentle persuasion with residents, et cetera, or more enforcement methods that meet with the agreement of residents.
Thanks.
Tony?
Can I thanks, Brian, for responding to the question that was asked, but the question's not quite relevant to the report, as you quite highly said. So if we can stick to the report, it would be helpful. Thank you, Paul. Did you want to ask a question on the reports, Paul?
Hang on. No, thank you, Chair. That was enough for now.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Emrys, please.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you for the report. I've got 2 questions. You've referred a number of times to the grant from Welsh Government. We haven't had a figure for that grant in today's meeting. I think I may have seen it somewhere in the report, but I'd like to hear that being said publicly, the amount of the grant. So that's the first question. My second question is, will this figure of this amount be enough to cover the additional costs we're facing now and also in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, first of all, I think it is in the pack, the figure, and Julian or Steve Gadd will confirm it. It's 1.58 million. That's the figure that I believe. And of course, the Welsh Government have supplied it because we are going to use their blueprint for waste. In the beginning, I wasn't convinced. Now I am convinced that it is the right thing to do as a new waste model because of the benefits to better quality recycling, and Tony touched on some of the other benefits as well. So 1.58 was the figure. Is it enough? That's difficult to answer because as we're sitting here this morning, prices could be going up in any area of this model. We don't know. Prices are going to continue to go up for some point in time. You can't predict. But 3.3 recommendation today is asking for a facility to combat that if we come across any short-term increases in prices, extra price increases.
Yeah, just to add to that second bit, Leader, as we sit here today, yes, that is enough because we have a fully funded project, as Julian pointed out earlier. So there is a risk with the project, as with any ongoing projects at the moment. As I've said, that prices could change until we award contracts. That will always be a risk. But as we sit here today, we have a fully funded project now because of the additional 1.6 million from Welsh Government.
I'm aware that the figures are in the report, but unfortunately not many people who might be watching or listening to this meeting won't have read the report from cover to cover. It is important for us to let people know when necessary. Thank you, Emrys. Thank you for that. Meirik, please. Thank you, Leader. Just a small one from me, really. You've mentioned now about the cost of steel and so on. Why haven't you gone out earlier, sooner, to find out the prices for the building? I'm assuming that we've got the plans for years. We're talking about 2019, but waited till now to get the costs instead of having everything having gone out for prices, and you've got the builders ready to start at any time once the site was ready. Thank you, Meirik.
Obviously, whatever walk of life it is, you should know this from your professional days. You need the technical information, whether that's a detailed drawing, construction drawing, whatever. You have to have the fully detailed out production drawings of what you want before you can go out on tender. And again, as we've gone through this project, those dates have been reported. You couldn't have gone 12 months ago and asked for a nailed down price of steel or anything else to do with the project until you could go to the companies that you were asking to tender with a fully detailed specification. That's the law of going out to tender, unfortunately. In a perfect world, it would have been great. But again, if we'd have got steel prices 12 months ago, they would have been 50% less or more than what they are today. So there was no way we could have got any benefit. Well, you couldn't do it. You didn't have the technical information to carry out that exercise. We did it as soon as we could. We actually put in extra resource on the technical side to get the 3D model drawings checked in the first instance, then the 2D drawings produced, and that takes time. And I know the team, and in particular, Mr. Eric Price, spent many hours trying to pull it back. We appointed outside contractors to help us with that element of the project. And so it came to market for tender as soon as it possibly could.
Tony?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that, as I said earlier, it took 15 months following the cabinet decision to actually acquire the land because of complications with the land registry. So without a plot of land, there was no project at that point. So we simply couldn't progress this project until we had ownership of the site. Until we did that, you know, we couldn't go on and start looking at leveling the site and doing all of the phase 1 preparatory work. So we've moved this along as quickly as possible.
Julian, did you want to respond as well?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just in relation to, I don't think either Tony or Brian's mentioned this, and again, this isn't unique to this particular project, but obviously we're talking about this one. Is that so? If in terms of how long contractors who are tendering for work are prepared to hold prices, because of the fact that they're in an extremely volatile market in terms of pricing. Whereas up until a couple of years ago, we go out for a contract and they would turn around and, you know, we get a tender in and the prices would be valid, I don't know, for 6 months, say. Now you're lucky if you get it valid for 6 weeks, because they're not prepared, obviously, if the prices go up yet again, to carry that cost, which you can understand from their perspective. And therefore it is very difficult to assess these things in a very, very volatile market that we're actually in at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Iawn efo atebion yna, Meirig?
Diolch yn fawr.
Happy with those responses, Mary? Yes, they have been answered. It's very sad that we weren't able to start sooner, but as has been said, it was acquiring the land in time. But we should have been able to get the technical information, I'm sure, to have that already at that time. Okay, thank you for that, Mary.
Bobby, did you hear me? Are you there? Bobby Feely?
Sorry, no, I didn't hear you, Leader. I've heard you now. Yes, just I'd like to thank the officers for the reports and for the reasonings and questions that you've answered both today and on the way to this. The expertise that you've shared with us has helped us to understand all the problems you've had along the way. And we are all, let's be honest, all of us, whether businesses or individuals, are grappling with cost increases. So it's not really surprising that the costs for this project have increased. So I would just like to put my support towards this Welsh Government blueprint model, as it's called, which Wales, let's not forget, is the third best country for recycling in globally. So we don't want to let that drop. So I hope that it's an awkward time, I know, with the council standing down and having to be re-elected or standing down permanently. So I'm happy with the explanations given for the increasing costs and for delegating to the CEO and the 151 officer in the interim till the next cabinet can be formed. So I guess I'm accepting the report and, you know, wishing you well to go through with it and hope that Denbighshire will lift back up to the top in terms of recycling as a result of this project coming in.
Okay, thank you for that, Bobby. Barry, please. Barry Mellor.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I've got no problem with this project overall. I think it's the best way to be going. I understand that the recycling costs, I think it was £29 that we got per tonne, which has gone completely the opposite way. But getting my head around these costs, I just cannot get my head around these costs. £2 million contingency money already gone. It's staggering to find where you get £2 million contingency from in the first place. Then we go to Welsh Government and ask for another 1.588 million. Yes, we know costs are going up, but also costs have got to be controlled. Otherwise, you're not in any business. the funding table in the report that gives all the funding there, which shows the 1.588 million, doesn't show the 2 million contingency cost. So I wonder why that is not in the funding table. The total cost of this is 19.337.142 million. Staggering amount. And I would like to see internal audit come in and look at this business case from start to finish, because the costing is just getting out of control. I've got nothing else to say, but I do support the project, as I think it is the best way to go. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Barry, for that.
Yeah,
Right.
first of all, if I can come in from a political point of view, the information is there in the pack. The information has been transparent all the way through the project. If you track back, it might be a lot of reading, but it's all there. It's no big surprise. If you've kept up to date with what's been happening with the project, you can see where the costs have gone. Tony alluded to it in the beginning that this project started off as a little project. Now it's grown into a big economic development project with jobs, local companies being able to stay in the Colomendy area, etc., etc. But as far as the costs and where it's gone, it's detailed out there. It is there. If you look, it's there. If it's not in that report pack, it'll be in the previous report pack on where all the extra costs have been coming from as we've gone through the timeline to the project to date. So I'm sure Tony will come in and add a bit more to that. And again, yeah, I'll let Tony add on to it. Steve Gadd will probably come in because Denbighshire have been through this model just after Christmas, which was put together by RAP to keep on top of where the costs are, where the costs are going, where they've come from. So it's been on top of all the way through the costs. Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. In terms of the costs and the way the project's been managed, as Brian said before, you know, we've had almost 50 project board meetings, of which and finance have been involved with the project from the very start, as have RAP, who work for Welsh Government and support all local authorities with this kind of change project. So there's been a lot of scrutiny around the financial elements of the project already. RAP have produced you know, both the models for on the revenue side of things, so how much the new waste model is likely to cost when we roll it out, but also assisted with putting together the initial estimates of cost for the project. Now, our own finance team have also done an in-depth piece of work recently to look at the cost of the project and to look at the revenue model to make sure that the conclusions that we have come to are reasonable based on the information we've got, and finance was satisfied that that is the case. I've got no issue with internal audit looking at any project that I'm involved in or any aspect of my service. That's obviously part of the council's process, and you know, that's entirely fine. I have no issue with that at all. A project like this does require a significant contingency. Even in a normal situation, it would be strange for a project of this scale and complexity not to have a significant contingency attached to it. At the moment, we're not in a normal situation, so it's really not surprising that that contingency has been needed, and that actually we had to ask Welsh Government for additional funding in order to deliver the project. If we look at the overall headline figures here, yes, it's a big project, and the total cost is just over £19 million, which is a lot of money. But this project is delivering a lot. It's delivering a brand new waste infrastructure to service the whole of the county. If we didn't do this, we would have had to spend millions of pounds on our existing infrastructure, which requires significant investment. We won't have to do that because of this project. A whole new fleet for the waste service, some of which will be new electric waste collection vehicles. There's a lot being delivered here. And of that total of just over £19 million, more than £11 million of that is being provided by Welsh Government. So I think we're doing quite well in respect of the support the Welsh Government has given the council for this project. And I believe that the project has been managed well and the finances have been scrutinised very carefully and controlled to the best of our ability.
That, Tony. Okay with that, Barry? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Julian, did you want to add anything on the financial elements?
Yeah, I mean, Tony's probably picked up on it, but it was just on Barry's specific question about why the contingency wasn't shown as a separate budget line. We would never show a contingency as a separate budget line in a document like this. It's part of the overall cost. All capital projects will have a level of contingency built in to the funding envelope that we actually put forward. So it will be included within our sort of, in round figures, £9 million contributions towards this project, but it wouldn't be shown as a separate line. And you know, as we said, we have been very successful over a great many years in the most, if not all, of our major capital projects have come in with, up until the last 18 months, have come in you know, on or below the overall funding envelope that's been allocated to it, and we've not had to you know, to face any of these situations. We are in a situation now over the last 18 months where a number of quite large scale schemes have unfortunately come at exactly the wrong time, in terms of they've met all of these unforeseen and absolutely impossible to deal with by doing anything else, external factors like the cost of the steel work and various other things that we detailed in this project and in other projects. Going forward, those will be built into to bids, but some projects like this, which have been ongoing for a number of years, there's very little alternative that's actually open to us. All schemes, the first thing we ever do if there's an overspend, the technical teams will try and value engineer the costs down as far as they can. But at some point on a scheme like this, I mean, this is just shy of £20 million scheme. A new school can be £40 million. We're doing flood defence works, £25–30 million. This is the sort of scale of project that we deal with. And it doesn't take a lot of percentage increase to get up to some quite significant numbers, unfortunately. So hopefully that gives a little bit of reassurance.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think the reassurance is that it has been well scrutinised and the project board has met so many times. And despite the scrutiny, the costs have still escalated because of issues beyond our control. What I think also cannot be underestimated is the opportunities for really good, substantial companies to expand at the site as well, because it's been landlocked for years and years and years. And to keep those companies in Denbighshire is really important. Local economy, local jobs and that type of thing. So that isn't really valued in the actual true cost of this, but to employ more people locally in Denbigh, I think is a good thing to highlight as well as part of the project. So in terms of where we are, you've got through it, and hopefully cabinets are ready to vote for it and get it through today, and it'll be a good project for Denbighshire for the next few years. So there are no more questions that I can see. I'll come back to you, Brian, to put the recommendation. Oh, sorry, Graham. I forgot about that. Yes.
Still, no, thank you. Just a quick comment from me, if I may, Cabinet. I mean, fundamentally, this report is about the updated business case, and obviously you've considered that, and it's good practice to, in big projects like this that are complex, that have a number of risks against them, and the council is often brave on taking these projects on. We don't shy away from taking on big projects with an element of risk, but it's good practice because over time that project will change. And when that project changes, it's about openness and transparency in terms of revising that business case, having that business case reconsidered at Cabinet. And that's exactly what we've done here. This has been a long-running project that has been difficult, that is challenging. There's a number of factors to it, and you've discussed some of that this morning. But the fact is, we've been open and transparent and brought back the new amended business case for you. That's about transparency. I know Councillor Mellor said about audit. Audit, if they want to come in and have a look at that, then they can. But actually, it's a recommendation of audit in terms of good practice of bringing back business cases where they've materially changed. So I'm happy we've had a good debate about it. And as Chief Executive, I've also followed this project with interest because it is one of our biggest projects, and I fully support the amended business case. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Graham, for that. Okay, Brian, can you come to the recommendations, please?
Yep. So the recommendations are 3.1, the Cabinet acknowledge the latest cost and budget position as outlined at Appendix 1. 3.2, the Cabinet approves the updated business case at Appendix 2. And 3.3, the Cabinet delegates authority to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Section 151 officer and monitoring officer to call upon capital plan unprotected funding if required due to uncontrollable increases in costs as a result of inflation or supply chain issues. Any call on this funding will subsequently be reported to the next meeting of Cabinet.
And 3.4, Brian.
And 3.4, which was hiding at the bottom of my screen, the Cabinet confirms that it is read, understood and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment as part of its consideration, and that's at Appendix 3.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a seconder for that?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Julian, a seconder. All those in favour, can you raise your hands, please, so that we can see that? Bobby, yeah. Hill, you're not on screen. Are you in favour of this?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
That's good. So that's been passed. Nobody against. Thank you for that. Diolch yn fawr. Agenda item 6 is the new 5M waste fleet vehicles contract award. Oh, sorry, Gary, could you just come in, please?
Thank you, Leader. Just to remind members that whilst the report is in part 1, appendices 1 and 2 have got commercially confidential information relating to individual organisations as part of the bid. And so any detailed questions on either of those appendices would need to go into part 2.
Thank you. Brian?
Leader. We've got Chris Brown with us this morning, who I can see on the screen there. He's looking well scrubbed up. And this report then, it summarises the process undertaken for the procurement and exercise, and it recommends the award of a contract to deliver 14 new 5M resource recovery vehicles as part of the wider waste servicing remodelling project. So if I could ask Chris just to elaborate a little bit, if you don't mind, Chris, on this. Or is Tony coming in first? Tony Ward first, please, then Chris Brown.
Thank you, Brian. Just to briefly say, yeah, that this report is always asking for permission to award a contract for the purchase of 14 vehicles for the new waste model that we've just discussed. The other aspect of this is that we're asking for permission to award this contract immediately. As discussed in the previous item, there are significant risks around prices being held. So we would like to award the contract as soon as possible in order to deal with that risk of prices continuing to increase, because obviously prices could be withdrawn at any stage until we actually sign a contract. The only other thing I would highlight, which is a positive aspect of this, is that we, as part of this piece of work, we've agreed to increase the number of ultra low emission vehicles to 3 of those 14 instead of the 2 originally proposed. That's happened following a further discussion with Welsh Government. So we've agreed to increase to 3. So good news from a carbon reduction perspective. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if Chris, if you would add anything to this.
Not a great deal. This part of the new aspect of the fleet is just one portion of it, but it's the larger portion. Hence the reason why we brought it to Cabinet for a decision. They're the 5 metre, i.e. the 5M, 5 metre curbside recycling vehicles. They're new to us. It's a new way of working. So it is a significant change to the way that we operate. As Tony's said, we're progressing with 3 electric vehicles, which again is part of our carbon reduction plan, which will reduce the emissions from our fleet when they go into service.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, if I can just reiterate my comment from the previous report, the reason why we want to implement this immediately, which at first view might seem sort of a bit of a panic measure, if that's the right word, is because we really need to make sure that we launch the new waste model in the autumn of 2023, so that that issue with the UPM Shotton plant, when it ceases to be an option for us to use, doesn't cause us what will be a massive financial pressure if we overrun that date. Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, thanks, Lady. Yeah, fully understand the need for all this. I just wanted to ask, I mean, this is a very expensive piece of kit, particularly the electric ones. They're obviously going to be in some harsh working conditions. I just ask, are we happy that the reliability of these possibly over 5 years, you know, because it's different from our usual sort of thing. And I presume, will they be replaced again in 5 years' time or something like that? Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, Chris may like to elaborate, but yes, we are confident about these vehicles. Otherwise, obviously, we wouldn't be proposing to buy them. One of the reasons why we suggested originally to introduce 2, and now we're proposing to introduce 3, is partly for that reason, because I think if we were to introduce all 14 as electric vehicles, there would be significant, too much risk involved there, and some of our rounds are on different geographical routes and have different conditions to deal with. So we're looking at the routes that these vehicles were most suited to, when we're going to use them. So we're managing that risk. Yeah, you're right. These are obviously more expensive as well, and Welsh Government have provided additional funding over and above the funding for the project for the electric vehicles. So yeah, our strategy will be to hopefully increase the number of electric vehicles or ultra-low emission vehicles over time. So our plan would not be to replace these when they come to their end of life with diesel vehicles. We'll be looking hopefully to introduce more ultra-low emission vehicles as time goes on. Chris, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Not a great deal. I mean, the transition to zero emission vehicles is part of our commitment, and any new ones any replacements in 5, 6, 7 years time, or whatever, how long that period is, it's likely it'll be mandatory for us to replace them with zero emission vehicles. So it's right now that we do bring some EVs onto our fleet now, because it's not just something that we can switch on and off. We do have to learn as we're progressing. It is new technology. There is some risk to it, but we've tried to mitigate that risk by the relatively low numbers of electric vehicles that we're going to buy. But we're confident, as Tony said, we've done with the waste team, we've done a lot of work in relation to their viability, their limitations in terms of battery capacity to meet the service obligations. And my maintenance team have been retraining to enable them to maintain electric vehicles as well as diesel ones. So it's been a long time in planning for us to get to this point.
Thank you for that. Mark?
Okay, thank you, Leader, and thanks for the report, Chris and Lowry. Only really good report. Just touching on the question Councillor Thomas just raised, so it is new technology. We've said that. So has it been tested anywhere? Can it do what they're saying it can do? And on the risk, it talks about timings of delivery. So are we happy that we can hit the dates we need to? Just those two, please. So has it been tested and can we hit the dates? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, these, again, Chris probably knows more about this than me, so I should probably leave it to him to answer. But yes, these vehicles have been tested, and you know, we've been to see these vehicles in operation. And sorry, what was this, Mark? What was the second bit again?
It was just on in the risk. It says
Oh,
about hitting the deadlines for delivery.
For delivery,
and we all know some of it's out of our control, and who we're buying it off will be under similar challenges. So can we hit the dates? Are we happy with
I'll
that?
leave that one to Chris, if that's okay, Chris. About lead-in times.
Yeah, they are they're not tight at the moment. Hence the reason why we're at this point asking for the permission to go out and order them now. The plan is for us to have a relatively long lead-in time so that we get the opportunity to commission the vehicles, provide the relevant training to new staff, but certainly be in a position to be more than ready when the new way of working begins. And it will be led to believe a phased introduction of new way of working, but we're comfortable at this moment in time, subject to no significant issues in the industries, that those vehicles will arrive hopefully in about a year's time, which will give us a few months to get to the point where we're ready to roll out the new way of working.
Thanks
Tony,
for that.
did you want to come back, Tony?
Yes, please. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, feel reassured about what you're saying that now. It's good that our staff been retrained on techniques of sorting out these electric vehicles. I was just wondering whether that gives us any opportunity for cooperating with Conway and possibly private industry on some of these new vehicles that will be happening overall.
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, in terms of Fleet Depot, for example, and Chris has mentioned staff being retrained to work with these electric vehicles. I think there are potentially opportunities for the future, and that's something that we are looking at in terms of our fleet model. So I'll be working with Chris on that, and Vince Russell, who reports to me, to do that over the next couple of years for sure. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, you know, we're always happy to collaborate with our neighbours, and you know, our maintenance unit in Bodelwyddan is a commercial garage, and we do have regular conversations with our customers in relation to new technology, which we're hoping will you know, provide long-term benefits to the local business community, as well as Denbighshire as our own internal fleet.
For that, did you want to come back, Brian?
Yes, please. Yeah, just on the reliability, and Chris will probably want to come in. Members may recall that we did run an electric waste vehicle around the patch, in inverted commas. Obviously, we used it in an urban area on an identified round. I actually went down to see it, and the guys on the vehicle were happy with it, and so that was a good ground to test it on one of our actual waste routes. So I don't know if you want to add on to that, Chris, on how that went.
Yeah, in addition to the curbside recycling vehicles, we do have 2 electric conventional refuse vehicles on order, which are due to be delivered this summer, and they will go into service shortly after that. And we're confident that these will, very confident that these will provide great additions to our fleet, and again confirm our commitment to reducing our carbon.
Thank you for that. Is that it from cabinet members? There are 3 other questions. Okay, Meirik, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. And can I also thank Brian, Councillor Brian Jones, and Tony and Chris for the reports. and for what they have said this morning. One or two things, if I may, ask, please. You may feel that you've answered this already, but I'd like further clarification, really. Before I go on, with regards to the method this morning, there's a bit of the sound breaking up, even from the chamber. It's not terrible, but as soon as you start talking, it breaks up a bit and then it comes back a bit. That's just for your information. The first question, Councillor Brian Jones has referred to Shotton and the costs, and they won't be doing this, that, and the other there. I was under the impression that we'd signed an agreement with that facility to incinerate items that don't go for recycling over North Wales, all counties other than Wrexham. Could you enlighten me a bit about that, please? My second question, I noticed that I think it's right for me to say that there are 2 or 3 diesel only new ones. Is there a diesel and electric hybrid vehicles? Do they produce lorries like that? So that rather than having just diesel for a further 5 years. Thank you, Merrick. I'll take all the questions together and then we can respond to them all together. Gwyneth, please. Thank you, Chair. My question is maybe not relevant to this report, but out of interest, I would like to know, does anybody know why the cost of electric vehicles is so much more expensive than the diesel vehicles? If anybody does know, I'd be interested to hear the answer. Thank you. Thank you, Gwyneth. Embrace. My question is similar to what Councillor Mary Claire Davis has just asked, maybe a slightly different perspective. EV, ultra low emission vehicle, does that mean that it's just electric driven vehicles? If so, are we sure that we were spending wisely? I drive a hybrid vehicle, which is half electric and half petrol. And other than for the petrol, I wouldn't be able to cope any sort of driving outside of towns, because once you're outside of 30-mile-an-hour limit, you're having to use much more of the fuel, the carbon fuel. I'm just asking questions. So what's the actual nature of these vehicles?
I'll take Merrick's question. On the waste question, Merrick, in simple terms, the black bin, the contents of the black bin goes to Park Adver. That's the incineration plant, which is a North Wales collaboration of authorities that looks after the black bin. UPM Shotton is the blue bin. So hopefully that answers your question. Blue bin goes to UPM at Shotton. The black bin waste goes to the Park Adver plant, which happens to be in Deeside.
Brian's answered the only one of those questions that I was able to answer, Leader. So I'm going to have to hand over to Chris for to ask about why EVs are more expensive than diesel and why have we not looked at hybrids, or what you know, is that an option? So Chris, are you able to answer those?
Yeah, sure. In terms of the why they're more expensive, it's a very good question. And despite asking on numerous occasions to numerous suppliers, that the response has never been, should we say, one that most of us would accept. But ultimately, they're saying that the cost is in relation to the batteries being more expensive than an internal combustion engine. And I would suggest there's an element of because it's new technology that you will pay at the outset for the research and development in relation to that, and there's market forces as well. You know, if it's very rare that a manufacturer will stick their neck out and undercut another manufacturer to make their product significantly more cheaper. Although, you know, there's no suggestion there's any collusion between the manufacturers. So that's the best answer I can give, unfortunately, Mary. In terms of hybrid, there are hybrid vehicles out there, clearly. As an organisation, we've chosen that, certainly for the smaller vehicles, that hybrid is really a halfway house. Our normal requirements mean that most electric vehicles are sufficient in terms of their capacity, their charging, and their range to meet our daily requirements. And buying vehicles that have two elements to it just wasn't really something that we decided as our route. We wanted to move over to zero emission vehicles rather than go halfway. In terms of the bigger vehicles, as far as I'm aware at the moment, there are no hybrid options. So it's either diesel or electric. There are some hydrogen powered vehicles that are going to become certainly more prevalent in that area of our industry, but they are very, very expensive. I'll give you an example. I'm aware of a local authority in England that have bought a hydrogen refuse vehicle, and we're talking in the region of about £900,000, when a conventional diesel one's near £180,000. So there is rationale as to why we've gone down the electric route, because they're half the price of hydrogen, and we are having gap funding from Welsh Government to incentivise us to move towards zero carbon emitting vehicles. Hope that answers any questions.
You want to come back in quickly, Emrys? Thank you for the response. I'm very supportive to having vehicles that are going to reduce our carbon footprint in the county, and these would definitely do that. But we've got to be very careful about the nature of these vehicles. I would challenge the fact if it's full of waste coming back over the Horseshoe Pass, I think it'll struggle to get to the end of its journey because of the landscape and so on. These will be used around housing estates. You've got children playing, people around. If they're electric vehicles, they're very quiet. So I hope there will be a procedure in place to ensure that these vehicles can be heard, not just when they're reversing, but when they're driving forwards as well.
The agenda forward. Can we come to the recommendations, please, Brian?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So 3.1, the Cabinet grant approval for the award of a contract to the preferred supplier for 11 times 5M diesel RRVs and 3 times 5M ULEV RVVs at a total cost of 2.712.213. DCC will fund 2.217.231, with Welsh Government contributing 495k for the purchase price of 3 ULEV vehicles. If you see Appendix 1, Part 2, the further funding details are there in relation to that recommendation. 3.2, the Cabinet confirms that it is read and understood and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment at Appendix 3 as part of its consideration. And 3.3, that the Cabinet decision is implemented immediately given the long lead-in times on the larger 5M RRVs, and just as importantly, to secure the tendered price given market uncertainties and price inflation, which may mean tenders prices are withdrawn at short notice.
Seconded by Mark Young. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against. Okay, thank you. That's been moved. Agenda item 7, phase 2 water transfer station Colomendy contract award via delegated decision.
Thanks
Right.
again. So this report summarises the process undertaken today in relation to the tender to deliver phase 2 of the development of the new DCC waste transfer station. And again, on this report, time is of the essence. We're expecting the costs back fairly shortly, but we need again to have a decision made so that we can move forward and secure the rollout date, which has been a common theme of the conversations this morning. So, Tony, would you like to add on to that, please?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Essentially, we're only bringing this report to Cabinet today because there is no Cabinet in May due to the election, and the way things have fallen with the timing for the tender for phase 2 of the depot build means that we will need to make a decision quickly once we get those tender returns in, for the reasons we discussed earlier on in the previous item, that prices won't necessarily hold, and we will need to make a decision quickly once those tenders are back in. And also any delay in delivering phase 2 of this project will result in a delay in rolling out the new model, and a delay in rolling out the new model will cost the council more money. So it's really only for that reason we're bringing it today. We need a mechanism for making a decision in the absence of there being a Cabinet. Just as a quick reminder, this phase 2 is literally about building our new waste depot. Phase 1, which Cabinet have already approved and has been completed, was around the enabling works for the whole site, including the 4 plots owned by the local businesses that we discussed earlier. So that was about levelling the sites and providing drainage for the whole site, etc. This phase is about our site only. It's about building our new depot. So the rest is obviously in the report, Leader, but I'm here to answer questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any questions or comments from Cabinet members? No. Tony?
Usual question is, I know there's a load of crested newts and things like that, and I read that there's something in the report regarding them, but obviously it did say it was minimal, but I thought it was more than that. They need to be transferred, obviously, before works start.
Just to say that from the outset of this project, we've been working really closely with Countryside Services and the biodiversity team to make sure that any impact in terms of this development is minimised and managed in relation to wildlife and biodiversity. So the biodiversity team are very happy with the way the project's being developed. Working really closely with Peter Clayton, the project manager. I can't actually see whether Peter's on the call or not because I can't see the screen without my glasses. I'm getting nods if Peter is there. So I don't know, Peter, if there's anything you wanted to add specifically on that.
Yeah, I can do, Tony. Yeah, Tony, before we started work, before the commencement of phase 1, which actually started last summer, we did the required application for a license from NRW, and we clear trapped the site, the whole site, to make sure that there was nothing on the site before we commenced phase 1 construction works. So if you do go past the site, you will notice that there's a perimeter newt fence. Within that newt fence, we've cleared the site to allow us to work, and that newt fence will remain in place for the duration of the construction works, including phase 2, to protect any wildlife on site. And as Tony says, we've been working with Countryside Services and NRW, who do regular audits of the site in terms of the newt license performance and making sure we're doing what we should be doing. So that side of it is being dealt with, Tony.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Are there any questions? No questions. Good, Brian. You can
Okay, yeah, if I can, really, before I come to the recommendation, I know you shouldn't single people out, but if I could give a special mention to Peter Clayton, and he has got a team underneath him, Eric Price, etc., etc. But Peter Clayton does deserve credit. He's run the board meetings, 40 odd of them, nearly 50 of them. I've seen him at his low point because he has been under stress, along with Eric Price, caused him a lot of stress getting this project to where it is today. And I know we need the wind in the right direction to get to the autumn of next year to actually roll it out. But he has been a credit to the authority in the way that he's dealt with it, all the issues, problems, endless issues and problems. And in a small way, I like to think I've hopefully supported Peter with my weird sense of humour when he was at those low points. So with those few words, I'll move on to the recommendations. I'm giggling because I know some of the help I gave him with that sarcastic sense of humour. So 3.1, recommendation that the Cabinet approve the award of a contract to the preferred contractor via a delegated decision by the Chief Executive in consultation with the 151 officer and monitoring officer at the conclusion of the tender process, providing the contractor's submission is within the affordability envelope for the works. It's expected that the delegated decision will be taken on or after the 5th of May 2022. 3.2, the Cabinet confirms it has read, understood and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment at Appendix 1 as part of its consideration. And 3.3, that the delegate decision is implemented immediately due to the time pressure to progress the programme and award a contract to allow works to commence on phase 2 on site as soon as possible to maximise the more favourable weather conditions for construction over the summer and mitigate the risks posed by ongoing market volatility and cost pressures.
Been moved. Is the seconder? Julian, the seconder. Everybody for that? Raise your hands. Nobody against? No? Okay, thank you. Brian, that's been moved. And just to add to Brian's comments, I thank Tony and all the officers who've been worked on those 3 agenda items. We know it's complex and challenging, but residents will benefit in the longer term with that work that you've done. So as a Cabinet, just want to show our appreciation for everything that you've done in that. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 8, YSGOL PLAS BRONDYFFRYN project, school organisation, formal consultation proposal and draft strategic outline case. Okay, who please?
Morning, well. It's a pleasure to bring this report before you today, where I just want to for you to approve the proceedings for formal consultation on the increased capacity to YSGOL BRONDYFFRYN from 116 to 220, and also the strategic outline case considered by Welsh Government, and making sure that you're all aware of the situation in Denbigh. As you know, this Cabinet has approved the 21st century funding for the projects in Denbigh, which include YSGOL Pendref, YSGOL Denbigh High and YSGOL PLAS BRONDYFFRYN. We're at this stage, all of them are running at the same time. They're just different landmarks depending on land issues or whatever it may be. So there's no priority given over and above. It's just the way the timings are falling with things. You know, we've heard today how legal and land purchases can take a long time. Well, you know, that situation happens in education as well. The nuts and bolts of it, you know, YSGOL PLAS BRONDYFFRYN is full to the brim, and they have not got the space and capacity to deliver what we needed for the children of Denbighshire and outside the area. Predominantly, this increase will be servicing the children of Denbighshire. You know, the programme is one that we want to make sure that we can deliver. We worked with Denbigh High as with regard to using land that's not currently used and bring into play, and how we can make sure that that's available to build. We've also worked with Highways and the Leisure Centre to make sure that everything, they're all consulted and all on the same page, so that we know what the new way of working. You know, for example, we've moved a footpath. We've also there will be a rugby pitch that has come into play that isn't currently used by Denby High, but the school will be. And also the entrance, for those of you who know the site, well, you probably most have all been into Denby Leisure Centre, because the elections are held there. So as you normally come into the bus bay of the leisure centre, it's further down the road with the entrance to the new school path. And you can see attached. Sorry, my screen's a bit slow going up at the moment. The consultation document is there. And you know, I do make the point, and I made this point on a site visit because we've had a site visit with all the local members, is that, you know, we will consult with the board of governors for the school. We will also consult you know, keep local county councillors informed along the journey, so that we are completely on board. Now, I don't want to really go into the mass detail unless Geraint wants to do it, but I think, you know, it is what it is in the paper, and what I'm asking, guys, is can we crack on? Because there's a need, the school is full, and as soon as possible we'd like to crack on with this project and deliver the right offer for the children and the service users of this school. Diolch.
Geraint, did you want to add anything to what's been said by Hugh?
No, nothing to add. Thank you very much. I think the report sort of highlights the figures, the numbers, you know, the fact that the school's over capacity at the moment, and we are aware there's a waiting list, and there's a waiting list for pupils requiring assessments, and we still haven't realised, I think, the full impact of COVID as well in all of this. So, you know, I think the report sort of highlights that already. Thank you. Diolch.
Leader, can I just add something else?
Yes, Hugh.
I think just to illustrate how important this is, the fact that we have children who haven't been assessed and are on waiting lists to attend this school at the moment has a massive impact on other schools, and can be quite an issue in the classrooms for teachers, and provides challenges for other learners as well. So I just want to really highlight how important this provision is for not just the school and Denby, but every school in Denbighshire. I think that's really important, seeing that there's members from all around the county around the table. Diolch.
Diolch for that. Okay, Tony Thomas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Thank you, Hugh and Geraint. Yeah, obviously very important project for not just Denbighshire, isn't it? I mean, there's other people in North Wales which will be using the school as well. And I can see that the 220 will be reached very, very quickly once you've sorted out your assessment, which I think is disappointing to hear that pupils are waiting so long to be assessed. And obviously we need some resources going into that to rectify that situation. But when we get to a situation where you probably fall to your 220, what sort of preference would Denbighshire children get as opposed to those outside the area? I know everyone they're very sad cases, and that they all deserve the best possible facilities. But would there be a possibility of increasing from 220 going forward? Thank you.
Well, my understanding, and again, Geraint can come in, is that the 220 proposed capacity, which is to be open in 2024, is that is the need that the business case has evolved from. So that's where we've come from, if you know what I mean. My understanding is that the priority is obviously going to be for Denbighshire pupils, because why would we be investing in this money if we were going to give priority to outside of Denbighshire? The reason for this proposal in the business case is to relieve the pressure in Denbighshire and on other schools, as I said. So, can you rwbeth arall I adio hwnna, Ger?
It just the
Want to add anything else to that?
Reach that 220 mark, obviously there would be a requirement for further investment and a lot of further discussion. We feel that the 220 is a realistic size for the school. I share concerns around waiting lists for assessments, and it is something that we do discuss quite often with health colleagues where we are waiting on assessments for pupils. But the 220 and the lead member is right. It does impact on all schools, because when there is a waiting list for pupils, what we want is for pupils to be in the right place, receiving the right education that's fit for them. So this will allow us to sort of deliver that and give the the pupils in Denbighshire the best start. Diolch.
Okay, diolch am hynna. Okay with that, Tony?
Yeah, I can see the 220 coming very, very soon, because obviously it's an exceptional facility that we're having, but my point was, once the 220 is reached, then if you've got more clients again in Denbighshire, you're going to have to think about expansion, and it's good to hear Geraint say that it's a fluid situation, so I can see there's going to be further need again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, so lead member, Director of Education. So thanks for the site meeting recently. You both mentioned the importance of communication, and that really helped. And also thanks to Lisa and James Curran, who attended them meetings. And just separately, obviously, this is a great scheme, but I just want to mention that obviously the planning permission is a separate piece of work to this. And I just think it's important to mention that although we agree with the work, that's going to be separate. And again, that'll be involve consultation, etc. But it's a great scheme, and as long as we communicate with people, we met with some heads and school governors recently with some questions that went down really well. As long as we communicate with the community, it's going to be a great scheme, and other schemes in Denby also. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just to confirm that obviously the planning, as Councillor Mark Young just pointed out, the planning process is a completely separate process and independent of Cabinet, and it's a matter for the planning committee to determine on planning grounds.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from Cabinet members? No. Okay, Mary, please.
Diolch yn fawr, Patrick Cadeirydd. Diolch yn fawr. Wel, diolch yn fawr hefyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you also for this idea. It's good to be looking after these children. It's important, it's really important. I'm very pleased to be seeing that we're looking to the future and trying to do something about the situation. It's very sad that we've got 63 pupils waiting for assessment. That's the only bad news in this report, and we've got to get that in order. Our little school in Cymru has had the same difficulty over the years. This does cause problems for teachers and for schools, but thank you for looking at this. Can I also ask you kindly if you think that there'll be any need to increase the size of the school in the future, as has been mentioned by one of the councillors previously, that you don't make it difficult to add on an extension. So I'm asking that the provision is in place so that there won't be massive costs, because there's some sewerage provision in the way. Please have it built so that you're thinking for the future. If we do want to add on a piece, we can do that easily without additional costs at that time. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Would you like me to come in on that, Ger? We're taking your second point first, Mary. We'll be building this and make sure that it will be possible to put an extension in the future, because numbers are always increasing and there is always demand for this provision, and we need to prepare for that. But the problem that we got at the end of the day is the number of the school is meant to be 116 at the moment, but since 2016 we've been running at 124, then 128, then 140, then 137, 137 again this year. And the pressure is massive on the smaller schools, but at the moment there is no provision available for these children if they are assessed. And costs are increasing in schools to be looking after them in other schools. So we are fully aware of that. That's why we wanted to bring this paper forward prior to the election, so it's not held back whilst people are sorting things out after May. So we're hoping that everybody will support this today. Thank you. I support this development totally, and I hope that we will see this come to fruition quickly during the next term of the council. I'm just asking with regards to the Welsh language provision. It does say in the report about the language impact assessment that it's an English medium school. We know that there are individuals from many areas from Denbighshire and outside who receive their education there, and I say that there will be Welsh language provision available. I just wanted to confirm that that will be robustly in place in any development in the future, and that the school is designated as a bilingual school where there will be equal provision in both languages for whoever wants their special education in their preferred language. Just to say, there are children educated through the medium Welsh in a school, BRONDYFFRYN, that's always happened. And the large majority of the staff do speak Welsh, don't they, Ger? I know myself from knowing local children who receive their education there, that they get their education in Welsh in school. I'm confident. I don't think there is a category of Welsh medium school for this type of school. So I think that's why it's not designated as such. Yes, this crosses over also to our strategic plan for Welsh education and the school workforce annual census, and it is something that we are developing, which is developing the workforce to increase their Welsh language skills. And it is something that I know when I had a head teacher's hat, that pupils moved to this school from one of my Welsh medium schools and received provision through the medium of Welsh, because there are staff at the school who are available and have got the skills. There is no designation for special schools with regard to their language provision. The lead member is correct about that. At the moment, the majority of the children who attend the school are from non-Welsh speaking homes and get Welsh as a second language. It can be offered through the medium of Welsh when the families and the children wish that. But it is something that is part of our systems to develop the workforce further as we get closer to 2050 and 1 million Welsh speakers. Thank you. If I can just respond, thank you, Geraint, thank you, Hugh, for your responses. Maybe it would be better for the report on the language impact should refer to the fact that it is a school that provides education in Welsh and in English for those pupils in their preferred language provision. I think by saying that it's an English medium school, it puts a necessary stamp on the school. Thank you, Emrys, for those comments. I don't know whether you want to respond to that, Geraint. No, I accept that. It may be something that we could change in the paper. That's fair enough. Thank you for that. Gwyneth, please. Thank you very much. I just want to support what Emrys said. From my experience, when I was chair of governors at the school, there were families, totally Welsh-speaking families, who had children attending the school. So I think it is important that that is included in the document. Thank you, Gwyneth. I'm sure that Geraint will take that on board moving forward. No further questions? Okay, Hugh, can you come to the recommendations, please? Sorry, I've moved on to the next paper. Can somebody read out the recommendations, please? Would you like me to read them out, please? I'm already on the next paper.
To approve proceedings to formal consultation on a proposal to increase its capacity from 116 to 220. 3.2 to approve the submission of the strategic outline case for consideration by the Welsh Government. And 3.3 that the committee confirms that it is read, understood and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment, Appendix 1, as part of its consideration. And that would be moved by the lead member, Hugh Hilditch. Seconded by Mark Young. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against? Okay, thank you. That's been moved. Now we're with you again, Hugh. We're on agenda item 9 now.
Yeah.
And that's the national, oh, sorry, Graham, can you just come in, please?
Just before we move on, just a point of clarity in case it's not clear for everybody. This is obviously a hybrid meeting that we've got, so we're learning as we go along. And I think it's just important to say that obviously there's a number of people on the screen. There's a number of people actually in the council chamber here. So I'll just make sure people understand who's in the council chamber, if I may, because it may not be obvious in terms of if members of the public are looking on the screen. So we've got Councillor Tony Thomas, Councillor Brian Jones, Councillor Mark Young, and the leader, Councillor Hugh Evans, here in the chamber. Also in the chamber actually is Councillor Emrys Wynne as an observer, and we've seen Emrys ask a couple of questions already this morning. Gary Williams as monitoring officer, myself as chief executive, 2 supporting officers from Democratic Services and the translator, and that's who we've got here. In terms of on the screen, from Cabinet, and I won't go through everybody on the screen, but from Cabinet, in fairness, we've got Councillor Bobby Feely, Councillor Hugh Hilditch Roberts and Councillor Julian Thompson Hill, who have taken the option of dialing in as part of the hybrid meeting. There are various other members that have chosen to dial in, and various other officers, etc. And those names are clear on the screen. So I just thought it'd be, in fairness, leaders, to make that clear to everyone. And probably actually as good practice, we'll probably start that at the start of hybrid meetings, so people understand who's in the chamber and who's chosen to dial in. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.
Graham, for that, for providing that clarity. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 9. That's National Collaborative Arrangements for Welsh Local Authority Adoption and Fostering Services. Hugh again, please.
Diolch, Leader. So this paper really is I suppose in essence is to formalise what we're already doing, I suppose, and putting it on a professional setting. The foster service, National Adoption Service, has been in existence in 2014, and has enabled huge changes and improvements in adoption services across Wales through the Welsh Local Government Association. Proposals have been developed to extend the government structure and to incorporate a national approach for fostering services to help foster Wales. And basically what we are looking to do, I mean, some of you may have seen, well, if you see Rhian Morel's screen there now, there's a big Foster Wales banner at the back there. And what we're trying to do is put this on a sort of professional setting so that we can actually compete with the agencies out there, the non council fostering agencies, that we can offer the service and trying to promote to get better foster parents into local authority. And by being involved and sharing best practice and attending a meeting, we would want to nominate somebody, formally nominate somebody from Cabinet to sit on the joint committee in the future. And then we want to develop the national approach with them and work with the local governance and also local scrutiny arrangements, and report what the work we do to audit and governance committee and full council. And in essence, what I'm saying is bringing fostering right onto the top of the agenda of the work that we're doing. We all talk about we're corporate parents, and Jeanette always reminds us. But what we'll be doing is trying to make sure that it is something that every councillor takes on board, and we can get our shoulders behind to promote because you know, some of the work that our foster parents do, and I've been, in the last 5 years, I've been fortunate enough to attend the Christmas parties and meet some of the foster parents. You know, I think I met one lady and she'd had something like 20 odd babies that had been through her, you know, with her, and the difference that she's made to those children's lives is really important. And I think it's for us to make sure that we've got a good structure behind what we deliver will make a difference. So I'm not going to bore you with the details. A lot of it is governance based, isn't it, Rian? So I don't know if you want to add anything, Rian. I just try to give you a bit of a helicopter view of it, really.
Yeah, only to say that the National Adoption Service, as you say, has been in place since 2014, and we have seen some incredible changes in the way that we support foster carers across the region and across Wales. So we could, with our children anywhere in Wales, there's no
sorry to interrupt, Rian, you might have to turn the screen off.
Okay.
Clear that last bit, wasn't very clear.
Sorry, I'm breaking up. So yes, the National Adoption Service has enabled us to increase our support capacity. The National Fostering Framework aims to do the same, and Foster Wales Maethai Cymru has fallen out of that. We intend to be able to attract more foster carers to local authorities, but also improve the training, support, therapeutic services, the whole gambit to our foster carers, and ultimately, of course, that supports our children looked after, which is our main aim. And by increasing our foster care profile, we will be able to keep our more vulnerable children closer to home within their communities, which is what we all really strive for, as we know that that is the easiest way to reunite children with their birth families whenever possible. So we've already seen improvements since Foster Wales has been established. The National Adoption Service, the collaboration is laid down in regulation. That's not the same for Foster Wales, hence the establishment of the Joint Committee. Thank you.
Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? No? Okay. Cabinet's okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, that's straightforward. Thank you. Who can you come to the recommendations, please?
3.1, the proposal of developing the governance arrangements for the National Adoption Service of Wales, as it assumes responsibility for Foster Wales, are adopted. 3.2, Cabinet confirmed the support the Joint Committee agreement for the National Adoption Service in Foster Wales and agree that the authority signs the agreement. Cabinet 3.3, Cabinet formally nominate their representatives on the Joint Committee. And 3.4, that the development of the national approach, associated delegation of governance and local scrutiny arrangements are reported to Audit and Governance Committee and full council.
Okay, that's been moved. Someone second that? Tony seconded that. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against? Okay, thank you, Hill. That's been moved.
Can I just say, Leader, that is in 5 years, that is the first paper that I've never had a question on. Thank you.
Oh, it's taken 5 years, Hill.
Yeah, it's taken 5 years.
Okay, good. It might be something to do with an election, but we don't know about that, Hill. Right, we'll go to agenda item 10, the reactive maintenance framework, minor works, school and non-school properties. Julian, please.
I think Merrick's waving. Chair.
So, yeah, sorry, Arweinydd, dim ond I cwestiwn bach.
Sorry, Leader, just a small question on what you've just recommended and passed. With 3.3, I take it that that will be done internally by you as a cabinet? Yeah, the name of the representative. I'll ask Gary to respond. Yes. The member of the committee must be a cabinet member, so it'll be a decision for the leader following the election. Whoever is elected as leader will decide who sits on this committee as on behalf of the council. That's clear now to all. Thank you, Gary, very much. Thank you, Merrick.
Yep, thank you very much. Hopefully this this paper is relatively straightforward. I've got I think I saw Mark Cassidy with me for any detailed technical questions. The report is the result of a procurement exercise that we've been through to populate a framework for reactive maintenance works to both our schools and non-school building stock, and these are for the small scale under £10,000 contracts. You'll see in paragraph 4.2 of the main report, and appendix 2 gives a bit more detail on that, how we've broken the works down into 6 lots. Appendix 3 to the report provides the methodology for how we will be monitoring the performance going forward of contractors and the work that's being done. Just to confirm that all relevant checks have been carried out on contractors, and you'll and just I think the final point from me before I ask if Mark wants to add anything in terms of detail, that all the contractors that are proposed to be recommended to go forward are Denbighshire based, and we've worked in one shape or form with them all previously, and haven't had any issues with their performance. So hopefully, as I say, it is quite a straightforward document in terms of appointing the contractors onto the framework. But obviously, I'll hand over to Mark if there's anything that I've missed or he wants to highlight, and then any questions members may have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Julian. There's not much more to say really. I went through the tender process. Each contractor was ranked on 70% cost and 30% quality through the proactive system. And in Appendix 1, you can see the successful bidders for, as you say, generally all Denbighshire contractors, all we've worked with before. So we've got good history with them all. So it's quite a straightforward process, I hope.
Okay, thank you both for that. Mark, did you want to come in, please?
Yeah, just quickly, Leader, and just to the lead member and officers, it's great to see so many local companies in this document on the tender list. So well done, and you know, really positive to see. So Jock and Vow.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions from cabinet members? No. Okay. Any other questions at all? Nothing. Okay, Julian, can you come to recommendation, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll take them in reverse order, actually, because I think they got switched here. So it's recommended the contractors should be appointed to framework lots as detailed in Appendix 1, and that the committee confirms it is read, understood, and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment as per Appendix 4 as part of its consideration.
Thank you, Julian. That's been proposed. Someone second that? Mark seconded that. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against? Okay, thank you. Agenda item 11, please, Julian.
Yep, sure. I'm just getting the report up. Okay, this is obviously my the final finance report before the elections, and it goes up to the end of March. But this is not the final outturn report. The formal final outturn report, when everything's been married up, will actually come to the first cabinet in the new council in June. So you'll see in terms of the headline news here that there's been some significant movement from what I've been reporting in previous months' reports, in terms that there was actually a forecast underspend of £386,000, whereas in the last report I was reporting an overspend of around about £1.5 million. And this is almost entirely down to the fact that, as is usually the case, Welsh Government right at the end of the financial year have put in some one-off additional funding into the budget. And you'll see there that our allocation is just shy of £2 million that's actually been received for that. And as the report says, although in theory it's unhypothecated, part of it actually is hypothecated. Around about 330,000 should be used to fund improvements to travel arrangements for care workers. So what we're proposing to do is we create a specific reserve for that purpose, and then we can draw down on that during the course of the next financial year. And then the balance, just over £1.6 million, would go into the budget mitigation reserve, which would help us deal with some of the inflationary pressures that we know that we're dealing with. But as I say, the full detail will be in the final outturn report, which will come in June. In terms of the drawing down of funds, we continue to draw down funds against the hardship fund for last financial year, because obviously we've now gone into April and we're in there's none available, as you're aware, in the new financial year. And you'll see the detail of that in section 6.1 to the report. In 6.2, in terms of budget, you'll see that, as you'll know, the long drawn out pay settlement has finally come to some sort of conclusion. And that's allowed us to move some corporate funding around that we had put down as contingency, and to release some funding. And we've now released just shy of £800,000 of contingency from that towards service overspends. Okay, in appendix, just let me get to it. Appendix 2, which is the service variance narrative. You'll see there have been a number of movements, primarily improvements across the various services, with some context there as to the reasons for it. You'll see in education and children's services, we've received some additional Welsh government grant funding, which has improved the position there. There's a projected underspend in finance and property due to some delays in some projects falling out of last year's scheme into the next year. So those obviously will be carried out, but they will be in the new financial year rather than the one I'm reporting on. Highways and environment, again, an improvement there in terms of a reduction in the overspend, which is largely due, as you'll see there, to some release of a revenue waste grant into the budget. And I referred earlier to the just shy of £800,000 in corporate and miscellaneous, which is as a result of the pay settlement. And there's various other smaller movements in terms of the other services, which you'll see there. In terms of the major capital projects, they're all moving on well. Obviously, we had the lengthy discussion earlier in terms of the waste project. But you'll see the detail of all of the existing schemes. Many of them are winding down and just at the stage where we're doing snagging and the like of works on in terms of that. The flood defence schemes are all functioning as we would anticipate. And there was a report, obviously, last month or the month before, in terms of the Queen's Buildings project, which continues now to move ahead. So I think that's probably all I wanted to highlight at this point. I don't know whether Steve wanted to add anything before we go to questions.
No, Julian, I think you've covered everything.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Julian, for that. Are there any questions from Cabinet members? No, nothing from Cabinet members. Mary, got ti eisiau dod I fewn?
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. I just want an explanation, please. I'm sure one of you will be able to answer. On Glasgow, which is on page 318, is this the work that is going to be responding to the problems highlighted in the newspapers by within council taxpayers with regards to the provision in the English medium school? And the second one, referring to page 322, Hill East, sea defence walls, there were complaints in the northern newspapers that parts of this wall would be too close to housing that's been there for a number of years, that it would feel like a prison. Has anything been done about that? I think it's around the golf course area, I believe. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, Hugh.
Julian, do you want to?
Yeah. I will partially respond, but it may well be that Hugh and or Brian might want to come in on the specifics in terms of the schemes you refer to. Just as a matter of clarification on the second point about the flood defence, the issue you actually refer to is not in connection with the scheme that's actually ongoing, which is part of this report. It's one of the projected ones that's actually going to go, is in the process of going through the sausage machine as it stands at the moment. But you know, Brian, as I say, might well be able to pick up if there's any more updated position on there. But I'll hand over to Hugh, if I may, on the Glassdeer one.
Thank you, Julian. Na ymateb yn Saesneg os mae'n iawn, Mary, because
respond in English if that's okay, because I've been responding so much in English.
The stories that have been issued in the paper has reflected the situation, if I'm being honest. And I just want this to be minuted and for clarity so that it is on official council minutes. When Ysgol Penbarras and Ysgol Rose Street was built, before anything went into the ground, both governing bodies appointed members of each school to work with the project team. And in this case, it was the chair of governors and the vice chair and the head teacher in both schools. During that time, then the design and build team brought plans to the table, and both schools basically turned those plans upside down because they didn't feel it was a practical. I think it would have won many an architect award, but it wouldn't win an award for practical teaching. So both schools evidently then changed the plans to make it work for them, which is, you know, that was how we work. But the one fundamental difference was that Ysgol Penbarras actually changed the design of their yard as well. And if I give you an example, it was basically took every hill and mound and grassed area and a bat loft in the middle of the yard out of the way and made it a flat, practical area. Having said that, when the schools were signed off, the area per pupil was actually greater in Ysgol Rose Street compared to that of Ysgol Penbarras, even though Ysgol Penbarras is a bigger school, but the square meter was bigger in Rose Street. However, it wasn't practical space that the children could play in, and that was the issue. You know, there's gabions, there's grassed areas. You know, the children were coming home with mud. So what this piece of work, which has been done by the council, as it says in the document, the cost of the works was less than the pre-tender estimate and has been funded from the overall allocation for the written projects anyway. An extra yard has been built so that the children can have that space, you know, and it's not on mud. And I think also a point just needs to be made, whilst I've got it here to be minuted, all apparatus on the Ysgol Penbarras site has been funded by the PTA and not local authority. I just want that to be very clear, and the spending per pupil on the new school has been equal. So I just want to clarify that, if I may.
Thank you, Hugh. I don't want to go to detail on this one at this time, but I think the question was asked, and I think the answer has been pretty clear on that. Can I just bring Gary in, please, Hugh?
Oh, it's just to remind members that if any member is a governor of any of the schools being discussed, then should just declare an interest in respect of the discussion at Cabinet today. Well,
that's me declaring an interest. Sorry, I just slipped my mind for a minute.
Okay, good. Okay.
And Bobby.
Lena,
yes, I declare an interest, Gary.
Okay, they're all going to come from all over the place now, Gary, aren't they? Okay, there was another question, wasn't there, regarding Frill? Has Brian left? He's not coming back, Tony?
I don't think he's coming back. He's going to see Tony
Right. Okay. So we'll try and get an answer to that question, Mirig, through Julian and officers to you.
Yeah, sorry, Merrick. I was just going to say, as Brian isn't available.
I think
After you, Merrick.
Julian,
Yeah.
mae Julian wedi ateb, dwi'n meddwl.
I think Julian has answered it. It's not the same location that I was referring to. This is something in the future. So you have answered. Thank you. Thank you, Merrick.
Are there any other questions related to this paper? No? Okay, Julian, can you come to the recommendation, please?
I will do as soon as I can just scroll back to it. There we go. Right, so the recommendation is that members note the budget set for 21-22 and progress against the agreed strategy.
Thank you. That's been proposed, seconded. Everyone in agreement? None against? Okay, thank you. And I think we come into the last agenda item for this council's cabinet, and that's the forward work programme. Gary, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. The Cabinet Forward Work Programme is as set out in the papers. Just to inform members that we are penciling in an extra cabinet on the 28th of June in order that there's an appropriate time for reports that may be required, given that we don't have a meeting in May, and also for the financial outturn report to be able to come.
Okay. Well, portfolio members want to add anything to that? Good. This is the last cabinet of this council, and it's probably the last formal meeting of this council as well, unless something happens between now and the election. And I'd just like to, if I may, say a few words. And I'm sitting in the chamber and I was looking at what we stand for, Unwn i wneud da, united to do well. And that typifies local government and Denbighshire in the fact that how we've worked well together across political parties to do as well as we can for residents. So I've got a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank my cabinet colleagues for their support over the last 5 years. It's not been easy. COVID did come along and it was difficult for business continuity, but we have maintained the progressive improvements required in Denbighshire, and all portfolios and all services have either aligned themselves or moved forward appropriately. So I'd like to thank cabinet members for all the work that you've done over the last 5 years, and sometimes taking some uncomfortable and unpopular decisions, but that's what's required, and I am grateful for that. I'd also like to thank members who attend cabinet as observers. It's really important that we engage with all members when decisions are made, and the fact that they ask questions, sometimes have a point of view which is different, it does add value to the recommendations and helps give us a broader context of what's required. And I'd like to thank you all for the taking time out and participating in the conversation at Cabinet. So we have had COVID, we've dealt with it really well. It's been difficult, business continuity has been difficult, and I'd like to thank officers and services for how they've reacted and responded and realigned their sort of focus on what needed to be done, contacting all residents who were in sheltering at the beginning, providing as much support for businesses as they could when businesses were in a desperate situation has been really important, and keeping the business of their own services going. So I'm immensely grateful to all officers across the whole of Denbighshire for keeping things going in difficult circumstances. Thank for the support I've had here from officers all through the 5 years, switching my mute on when I wasn't in complete control of it. At sometimes was the power you've got is quite amazing, but the looks we've had, but it's been really helpful, and you've had to change your ways as well. There are some members who are not coming back, have decided not to be re-elected, and I am going to name them all. That's Richard Manion, Gareth Davis, Pat Jones, Glenn Swingler, Andrew Thomas, Joe Welsh, Martin Holland, Gwyneth Kensler, Christine Marston, Peter Evans, and Melvin Miles. And can I thank them? Oh, and Graham Timms. Sorry, I got Graham Timms there. Can I also thank them for all the work that they've done for Denbighshire, and wish them a happy retirement if it's retirements that they are going to take. And I hope to keep communication with them, and I'm sure they'll be keeping a beady eye on Denbighshire as we move forward. I have to say that local government is by far, for me, the best level of democracy. It's the best level of politics because we are so accountable. We live in our communities, and if we make the right or the wrong decision, we face our residents and they tell us in no uncertain terms. And local government, without doubt, is the most important form of politics that we are sort of privileged to be a part of. And it's great that we work collectively. Consensus politics is the only way forward when there is an overall control. So I'm glad that we have moved forward. I think the foundations are in place for Denbighshire to move forward with the variance of challenges that it faced, not purely from a financial context, but the regional, the CJCs and how they marry up with our local aspirations, and the government required to marry those two up is going to be quite a challenge. So all this says for me to thank all officers, thank all members, and thank our Chief Exec for holding us all together, intervening at the appropriate time, and to wish you and all your staff all the best for the next council, to wish all candidates all the best, and I hope that you have a free sort of no problems in your canvassing and are allowed to canvass with freedom and being safe in your sort of canvassing election, and all the best to all candidates. And that's from me. Over to you, Graham, please.
Leader, thank you very much. Just like, as it's the last official meeting, as you say, that we've got diarised, just a few words from me as well. I'd like to echo all your words, Leader. I'd like to thank all the members of the council for their hard work over the term of the council. You are the democratically elected representatives of your community, and I know you've always done your best and had the best interests at heart for your communities. And as Chief Executive, on behalf of everyone in the council and the residents, I'd like to thank you very much for your work as councillors. Diolch yn fawr pawb. I'd also like to acknowledge the hard work, dedication and commitment of the lead members around the cabinet table, and collectively the direction that that has been provided by cabinet and your leadership, Leader. So again, diolch yn fawr to all the cabinet. And finally, a special thank you from me to you, Leader, actually, for your support, your challenge, because there's always challenge every day, and I really appreciate that, and for your assistance, and particularly over the last 18 months since I've been Chief Executive. And it will always be very much appreciated the way that you've provided me with that support during my transition from Corporate Director to Chief Executive. So thank you very much. And thank you all. Gary said I can't say all the best to you all for the election, so I won't. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Graham. I am seeing some hands there. I don't know if it's appropriate to allow members in. Yes?
Yes, it's appropriate. If for general comments, just need to be careful. There's an election coming. You shouldn't be making too many speeches.
No election pledges, please, or anything. Just quick comments, please. I'll start with Gwyneth, please.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much.
I've done 27 years. I just wanted to thank all of the support staff. They are so important to the smooth running of the council, and thank them all very, very much for their patience and tolerance and good service, and all of the officers that I've had dealings with. I thank you all very, very much, and I wish you all the very, very best. And I don't think I'll be popping into cabinet as a lay member of the community. You're in good hands, diolch, under Hugh. Diolch fawr iawn.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gwyneth. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I don't want to prolong the last cabinet meeting. but I would just like to thank all the officers who fall within my particular area of jurisdiction, particularly so with the last 2 years in the pandemic. And you all know the difficulties we've had with social care, with recruiting, with people swapping jobs to step in where needed, even into private care homes where they've been needed. And Denbighshire Leisure Limited, which started as a sort of burgeoning new company and had its attractions closed within nanoseconds of launching the company. And on top of that, have had well-documented sort of damage caused by floods, lightning, etc. to the premises, but they've struggled on and done sterling work. And similarly with Heritage, who had similar problems having to close their attractions and also had flood damage. So they've had particularly hard time, I think, the officers in the team that I'm part of. And I would like to say thank you to them all.
Thank you, Bobby.
And also, can I just say quickly goodbye to Gwyneth, who has been one of the, I know I'm not meant to make a political point, but one of the very few women councillors on this council. There's only 11 of us and 3 are standing down. So good luck to you, Gwyneth. You've done a grand job.
Thank you, Bobby. Mary, please.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Mr. Leader. Can I also reiterate everything that's been said? I'd like to thank you and all the other chairs of committees for allowing us to be observers and to contribute in that way. Thank you for that. It is important, I think, that we are able to say what we want to say. And you have always been very polite and courteous with regards to that. Thank you also to the Cabinet for their work and to all the staff who work for us in Denbighshire County Council at the moment. Over this past 5 difficult years, especially through the COVID period, to the technical team for their amazing IT support to enable us to come together at a very difficult time. So thanks to them for progressing things sooner than we expected in that regard. Thank you also to the Chair of the County Council for his work and looking forward to the next 5-year term. Thank you very much, Mary.
Julian Thompson-Hill.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nothing highly original coming from me, I'm afraid. I just wanted to also add, first of all, my thanks to Cabinet colleagues and to all our colleagues, especially those who have decided to stand down at the election for all their contributions over the last, well, in some cases 20 odd years, never mind 5 years. So thank you very much to all of them. I'd also like to thank all of the officers that I've worked with over the last 5 years and more in this role. Again, nothing new here. We over the last 5 years, we've seen more change probably in the way that we operate and function and how we've had to deal with all sorts of scenarios, not just COVID, and the fact that we're the way this meeting's being held is going to be the way forward. Is probably something that we wouldn't have envisaged a few years ago, and the way that that's been handled has been absolutely brilliant. There's always a few glitches, we know that, but generally speaking, I think it works really well. So my congratulations to all the staff, particularly the ones that I've been working with in my portfolio areas. And finally, thanks to Hugh as well. He's thanked all us, on behalf of Cabinet colleagues. I'd just like to thank Hugh for all the dedication and work that you've put in over the last 5 years and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and all the best, and hopefully we'll see each other again. Diolch yn fawr i chi gyd a bob lwc. Ta-ra.